3, 2, 1, go. Welcome to Grounds After Rounds.
So, this week, Grounds After Rounds. So I don't want to dive deep into it, but I'm curious, and it could be a very short. The Matt Fraser podcast.
I'd love to.
Because I haven't listened to it. I've caught clips of it and curious what other people said.
I've listened to the whole thing now, and I've listened to about 3 or 4 talking heads on it. And I'm glad I did. I felt very sort of why am I wasting my time with this? But I've heard I've got some general themes that I'm more than happy to offer to the rest of our audience who have not listened to it. And we're in it. I say, cool. I will start that.
We'll lead off with that.
Yeah. We're in it. Welcome, folks.
Welcome to the second biggest podcast in the world, Grounds After Rounds, right behind the Joe Rogan Experience.
Well, I think we're tied. We have to get in line with all the other seconds. So make pods great again. Best hour of their day.
What's Arm and Hammer's?
Or
is it Arm and Hammer? I think it's Arm and. I think it's like this, where he has a vlog /
and then he just turns the vlog into a podcast.
Yeah. Where it's like him and a bunch of dudes sitting around.
Oh, right. No, they do call it something else though. I'm interested to hear Matt on the Josh Savan podcast, because he didn't say in the I will say I've stopped listening to it and I actually unsubscribed, not because of anything they said, or it got boring because they kind of just talk about the same things. And what makes Savan so enjoyable to listen to is that he's a very good interviewer. Remember we talked about when he would do the CrossFit podcast. When he did the CrossFit podcast, he's got his own now, but he had a guy, David Rule, on there, and I didn't listen to it. I don't even know who he is. RUHL.
Sounds familiar.
He's asked all the questions of Matt and Josh that he can ask. We not that they don't have more to their lives. I'm sure as human beings, they probably have a lot more depth and nuance, but in the format that they're in and in the context what they're talking about, I'm good. I've heard Matt's whole backstory now multiple times. I've heard Josh Bridges' story multiple times. They kind of make the same jokes. They do the same thing. And I know this is the pot calling the kettle black. We do the same thing too, but I would argue that we have tried to scratch our own creative itches with the fitness field trips and the espresso shots, and sometimes it's long form, or now it's sort of, I see us as the bridge. This is actually Brian Meyer, who would also, sorry, Brian, you're not my gratitude for the week, but I am very grateful for our back and forth over the last couple of weeks, even to the point where Saturday I was a little snarky with him and Kenna. Individually, but because they were in different classes. They were both asking questions, which were fine questions, but I was exhausted from Friday. And so I basically gave them snarky answers and said, you all got one question left. Use it wisely. And it was more an examination of performative speech versus actual informative speech. And the questions they were asking weren't actually asking for answers. They just were asking questions. But that stimulated a conversation with Ryan, which was really fun. And then he looks at me and goes, maybe that's why I asked my question. And I was like,
he does that sometimes.
I was like, touche, sir, touche. But one of the things he keeps saying is, and it's totally true in this world of podcasting, which is microcasting, a small audience, there is an audience that wants to hear what we have to say because they have access to us in life, in real life, but also virtually. And that's human nature. We want to hear from the people we know and trust. That's the function I'm coming to find we serve, is we translate our job. Sometimes I feel like I don't know anything more than any of these other people, right? They can just go and listen and watch and read the same things I do, but they can't because they have jobs, right? This isn't their job. This is now our job. That's why we're the professionals. So our responsibility isn't to hold the information, it's to disseminate it in a curated way that collaboratively we determine how our audience likes to hear it.
So I was gonna say spew it, but you put it much more eloquently.
But I mean, right? That's the thing. And I think of it, okay, not an accurate analogy, but you think of clergy in religious contexts. Everybody can read the Bible, right? Like there you go. Like it's all written down. Now we could have an argument about translations and blah blah blah,
Sure. Yeah.
but the reality is like the general gist of the story is in the text.
Yeah.
Why do I need a priest to tell me what it is? Well, I don't. But what I do, what a function of a religious clergy is they interpret it or they immerse themselves in it. They look at other connections. They spend hours thinking about it, talking about it, and then offer those reflections back to their community, to their population, for that community and population to experience and understand what it is the text that they've all agreed is their guide.
Yeah.
There you go. And
Hence
so
us being the clergy of the Church of Fairwinds that Megan has spoken about.
well,
So-
that's where I bristle a little bit at the analogy because this isn't a religion. We are right. Like
right.
you start it, the metaphor loses its connection
But
there.
the purpose of this person
Exactly.
getting the information to this person.
So all the way back to, would I be okay talking about the Matt Fraser interview on Joe Rogan? 100%, because I have watched and listened to the whole podcast now. I've actually gone back and watched the specific clips that Rogan chooses to put on YouTube, which I think summarize the interview. He's very good at, well, his editor and whoever his producer is, which clips they pick. They do a good job of representing the podcast itself. And I've listened to Worley's Make Pods and Nikki Braziers' Make Pods Great Again episode. I just listened to Ackerman interviewing Dave, I can't think of his last name, CrossFit Soul owner out of Miami.
Yeah.
And I listened to somebody else's commentary, and I can't remember who it was. But yeah, and I have my own opinions on it. So yeah, I'm to the game talking about that.
Because who was it? Brian that sent us said Matt Fraser on podcast.
Which actually is hilarious. Like it popped up, well, because he's on Spotify.
Yeah.
I'm not on. Well, I am now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and you mentioned, you said something about the first. You said you listened to the first 20 minutes.
And I was out. It was when Matt finished talking about the PEDs and started talking about affiliates and programming. Yeah. And I was like, I'm done. I can't take anymore.
Because that was one thing. Like I was listening to clips because I don't think for me to listen to a full Joe Rogan podcast, I need at least 2 months because I listen to it in bits and pieces. And like
so long.
It's so long, and I just I think if I was still walking dogs, I get through it fast, right? Yeah. But it's like my commute is 2 minutes, and then or I'm listening to it at bedtime. But
I carved out the walk here and back.
Yeah.
Sunday.
I
finished it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, but when you had said that too, like the first 20 minutes, and I sat there and thought to myself about Matt Fraser, and I was like, what else does he have to say that I haven't heard 1,000 times? Mm-hmm. And
so here, can I summarize what I think are the three? So there's three camps or three schools that kind of have emerged. I think the one school is like, and sorry for our under 18 listeners, fuck him, fuck his myopic and irresponsible conversation, and CrossFit should disown him and strip him of his titles. Yeah. Right, like that's the one camp. Another camp, way to go, Matt. Take CrossFit to the court, to cleaners or whatever. Yeah. Like exactly. See, we told you it was dirty. Screw Dave Castro. Dave Castro can't take a joke. Like, oh yeah, don't ever badmouth CrossFit because they'll come after you. Truth to power, like that camp.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of the other camp of like, who are, I would say, more like us. And this is Nikki Brazier on Make Pods Great Again. She is like a diehard CrossFit nerd, just like uber CrossFit fan.
Is she the host of the games? Is that Nikki Brazier?
Blonde hair, sometimes wears the big hoops earrings. Is she tall? No, that's
talking for the CrossFitters, maybe.
Yeah, right. No, she's she usually does the commentary at like on the shows. She's the
yeah. Gotcha. Yep.
Or not commentary, but she does like the special interest pieces or whatever.
Yes. Okay, got her.
So that is just disappointment, right? It was like this person who you thought was like on par with your love of this thing that is so important in your life. And then you find out that they actually never really liked it. And they only did it because it was a paycheck, and they're kind of fine just sort of walking away from it. And right, like the bubble of idealism kind of got burst, and you're like, oh. And then in that disappointment, you're kind of like, oh, well, I wish they had picked somebody else, because he really didn't represent the stuff that is important to me the way that it could have been represented.
Yeah.
I feel like I fall on that side of the camp. What I recognized in Matt's commentary sometimes was, this is a guy, and this isn't mine. This was John Worley's from Make Pods Great Again. I think he said it very well. He's like, think about what this guy has done the entirety of his adult life. He graduated from college, and he has been a professional athlete in 2 sports, Olympic weightlifting for a while, but not really professional, though. I think you could argue anybody at the Olympic level is more or less professional. Yeah. They're just not getting paid a whole lot. Yeah. But then a professional CrossFitter. And what made him so phenomenal was his ability to isolate out the priorities. And his priority was winning. So he did not care if he didn't understand the coaching. He did not care if he didn't understand the nutrition. He never owned an affiliate. He did his level 1, as he says, because he was doing it to impress a girl. Yeah. And he's a really smart dude as far as like book learning goes and stuff. So you can memorize that material. And if anything, level 1, pay attention, take some notes, answer the question that's asked. Yeah. You're going to pass the test, no problem. Yeah. He's never really coached. He said he's never desired to coach. He's never owned a box. He's never done the affiliation process. He's never paid attention to what the affiliation and community development of a CrossFit
so you've heard he
means.
was the very common, like, oh, to get an affiliate, you go get your level 1,
you pay $3,000, right? Like, which on paper, yeah, that's exactly it. Good luck. I hope that works out for you. But he doesn't care because he doesn't want to. John Worley says, I respect all of that. Rather, if you look at the majority of his answers, most of his answers start, when Joe Rogan asks the question, the majority of his answers start with, I don't know a whole lot about that, but, and then he goes on to answer it with relatively inaccurate statements that are poorly represented cliches and stereotypes that have permeated outside the CrossFit world about CrossFit. Yeah. CrossFit enthusiasts, affiliate owners should take note of that. Not from a F you, Matt Fraser, but rather a, we've got some work to do. If Joe Rogan, who is the #1 podcaster in the world, owns On It, or half owns, or is an ownership part, and this is Ackerman said this, which was really insightful, which I'm consistently impressed by him when he gets out of it. He is a phenomenal interviewer. When he is left on his own to interview guests, they're sometimes the best episodes. Yeah. When him and Fern can get into their little, like, sometimes they get wrapped up in themselves. Yeah. But Ackerman asks good questions and gets to places with guests that is amazing. So Ackerman says, Joe Rogan, partial owner of On It, pretty sure he owns something of Killcliff, does CrossFit, right? Doesn't call it CrossFit, but trains in CrossFit. He displayed an absence of knowledge around the tenets and the mainstay ideas of what CrossFit is. CrossFit has a branding issue. We have a problem if people at that intimacy of the endeavor, the industry complex, our complex, whatever you want to call it, our ecosystem, don't understand what we do and can't represent it in easily digestible little taglines or blurbs, right? Yeah. That's what should be taken away, in my opinion, from the Matt Fraser article. Not animosity, not anger, but they basically said the emperor's not wearing any clothes. Like, we think we're doing this great thing and we've got a great advertising campaign and we're all inclusive.
So are you saying that people outside of CrossFit don't understand that when we say, well, it's constantly a very functional movement performed at high intensity across broad time middle domains? Come on, guys.
So, right, this is actually, I did a lot of, when I was working at the Academy and running that NASA internship, learning how to translate science writing to a larger audience is a skill in itself. You need somebody that understands narrative, aka an English major, who also has an appreciation for the authenticity and the veracity of science, and finding through metaphor connectable experiences. Because if I write it and I dumb it down too far, I'm going to alienate the scientists, aka the CrossFitters. But if I don't represent it correctly, I'm never going to connect with that broader audience. CrossFit hasn't done that yet.
Is it that, is it like that, I don't know if it's Albert Einstein quote or whatever, but basically like.
It's Feynman, Richard Feynman. Sorry, go ahead. I think I know what
But you
you're
know where I'm
saying.
going, but basically like, we'll explain it so.
If you understand quantum physics effectively, you should be able to explain it to a third grader.
But then there's that saying too, though, like you should be able to explain it to a child without simplifying it, dumbing it down.
You're right. Yeah, I like simplifying it out of its own truth.
Right.
It's like that's the lesson to be taken away by the Fraser interview.
Yeah.
This is a guy who on the surface is quote unquote our greatest ambassador. Right? He is the most winningest CrossFitter in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
It'd be like Michael Jordan standing up and people being surprised that he can't talk about basketball.
Yeah.
Guess what? Did you ever watch the
Last Dance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of all of the ones they interview, who's the worst?
Oh, MJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like the worst represented. I mean, like, I love still watching him, but like Scottie Pippen, even not David Robinson, what's his face? Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman.
I thought he right because
well, I think he was perfect too. You even have Steve Kerr, who's made his way in as a coach now, too, as a successful coach.
That they were able to tease out the nuances of the different relationships, and they were able to emote with Phil Jackson and understand the challenges that he was going to go through in that last season. And MJ just is sitting there bitter and kind of angry, and I would argue maybe even a little drunk with his red bloodshot eyes. Like he just looked rough. And he couldn't really explain it because he was the guy on top. And for
I
him,
think my favorite scene of that whole thing was when Rodman was explaining the triangle offense and how this play ran.
Yeah,
it's like it's really simple.
Yeah, and like if I'm picking which one I want to coach my team, coach my junior team or whatever, I'm saying get me Rodman, put him in a dress, dye his hair pink. I don't care. Clearly, he's going to be able to explain it and teach those kids the best. Yeah. Jordan's just going to go, look, guys, this is what you do. You just got to go harder. You just got to practice harder.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between talent that works harder than anybody else, but never actually had to struggle through learning the thing.
Yeah.
Talent does not make great coaches. Talent does not make great ambassadors of the trade. Do not eat Snickers and drink powdered Gatorade for your recovery, people. That is not going to get you your fitness goals.
God, no.
Right? Like that's, I think, the manifestation of Matt Fraser. Oh, Charles Barkley said this one time, right? When they interviewed him. I love that we've moved over to basketball.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they said, do you think your behavior is a great representative for, youth in that? And he looked at it again, he goes, that's not my fucking job.
I think Mary and I just had this conversation last night because we were, I think it was Mary and I can't remember who it was. And it was Amber, but same thing. It's like, professional athletes should not be like role models.
No, but which is ironic though, because then Charles Barkley completely transitioned into being like a role model, but never, I mean, that's the talent of, Charles Barkley is that, and he said, he never sacrificed his authenticity as a human being, or who he is and stuff.
Yeah.
He just grew up maybe, or whatever. He just changed in
Which we're all allowed to do.
Yeah. That's my second part of, he's 30. Matt Fraser is 30 years old.
Yeah.
He sounded like, to me, oftentimes a lieutenant or a junior officer who has had one deployment and comes home and starts spouting out about the truths of what it is and the way the world works.
Right.
And it often is the patience of, I've had mentors because I was that 30-year-old lieutenants spouting off the way things are.
Yeah.
And I've had mentors say, hey, that's the way things have been for you. You now get your ticket to enter the rest of the world. Like, shut the fuck up and eat some humble pie and sit in the second seat for a little while and see if the world looks the same as you think it looks right now. And that, I think, if I'm Matt Fraser's PR team, we're going to take that interview, we're going to sit down and we're going to say, hey man, do you want sponsorships 5 years from now? Like, do you want to have this presence? Because you just cashed in a whole lot of attaboys with a lot of possible opportunities. And I'm not sure we're getting those back. So we should probably figure out what your narrative is, because I don't think it's this.
And I think this is where, as well, it's with the games being on the forefront of CrossFit as long as it is, and the athletes being the ambassadors, like, that's part of the problem too. It's hard because these are like the elite, like these are the fit of the fit, but should they really be the ambassadors of CrossFit? Should it not be the affiliate owners or that person that's
So I think that's why they brought Austin Malleolo on as the director of affiliate affairs or something. I forget what his title is now. And he sits on that athlete council. So, right, like, so there's these bridges that, newsflash, Eric Rosa knows how to create an organization that starts to answer these types of questions. Because he listened to that interview, shook his head and went, hey, if I'm creating a platform, guess what? You're going to have that on the platform. You're going to have him, her, this, that on these platforms. And if you don't create a platform robust enough to not just support, but also weather all of that, then you haven't built a platform, right? Like, you've built a stovepipe. And so that's where I think he is. Yes, I do think the people who manifest the methodology at the highest level, AKA the professional athletes doing competitive CrossFit, if they aren't your ambassadors, you're missing an opportunity. If they're your only ambassadors, you are missing an opportunity to craft a robust narrative to draw or cast the widest net possible. Alienating either is not a good choice. Trying to please everybody is not a good choice. But think about it. Here, Joe today was he said something awesome. He goes, why the hell are we doing the open? Why would I do this to myself? Why would I spend $20 to remind myself just how bad I am compared to other CrossFitters my age and my experience level? And I heard him, and it hurt my heart a little bit, because I don't want to do that to Joe, because he's right. But then I said, dude, it's just numbers. Like, let's do the math. And I said, how many people your age are in the world? Let's just say 300. Let's just say 300 million. How many people are signed up in your category? 3,000. So you're telling me 0.1% of the world, you're already at the 99.9% in the world of fitness. Within that 0.1%, you're the top 30%, or you're the top 70%. That's pretty damn good. And so we talked it off, and Joe, like, it was a fun, like, we were just messing with Matt. I was like, it's just numbers. You can manipulate them to tell yourself whatever story you want. So if you want to tell yourself a story that you're not good enough, I can't help you. You're going to tell yourself that story. But if you want to tell yourself a story of, like, look at, you know what he does? About 5 minutes later, he goes, yeah, when I look back, I was like 17th percentile in 19, and now I'm in this. I'm saying, so basically what you're telling me is you're 100% better than you were a year and a half ago. We laughed, right? Like, there we go. That's why we do it. In our own population, we have competition and training. So if we alienate the competitive side, we alienate a component of our own community. If at the expense of only celebrating the competitive side, we alienate the training side, we alienate our community, right? So if I try to please both, I can't please anyone. If I try to only please one, I'm going to be at best 50%. So instead, don't try to please people, just represent what you are as authentically and truthfully as possible.
Yeah.
That's what I think Rosa and his team that is continually growing and tweaking has done. Right. And it's a process. Like, that's the thing.
He's only been in there for a short amount of time, and I like the trajectory it's going.
Fraser's interview on Joe Rogan's podcast is neither good nor bad, nor detrimental, and good and bad or wrong. I would say destructive or supportive of CrossFit's initiatives. It is representative of what they are trying to create, which is the world's leading platform for health, happiness, and performance. Right? Is that the new mission statement? I think it's 3. There might be a 4th thing.
Yeah,
we should work on that.
Though, yeah,
that should probably. I bet you that's now in the level 3 test.
Yeah, probably is.
Anyway, that's my tirade of Fraser, and I think it's worth us. I think it was worth talking about it. So I'm glad you said something.
Yeah, it was. I said listening to the clips. I can't really say that I'm in a camp other than brought to you by Laird Superfood. It's not Kill Cliff, but
Laird Superfood, a super creamer for super creamy goodness.
I think I say super creamy people.
Ew.
Anyway, yeah, I think
that's racist. Wait, what? Sorry, that's a reference to our Patreon episode. Patreon episode. Eric and I like to just we check in with ourselves and do a little DEI training about racist things we've done and seen throughout the week, and just keep each other in check.
Yeah,
and I think we're doing better.
I think we play our own game of, is this racist?
Well,
and then we go.
And we usually are like, oh, shit, yes, it was. All right, do better. Sorry, I got a little serious there.
Did it though? Did it really? But yeah, I think from what I listen to the podcast, it's like, it's another guy podcast. I think outside of CrossFit, I wonder if it really touches that many people. I was interested to hear what he had to say, but I was also just like, it's like you said, it's obviously coming from the star athlete, not the star trainer, not the star affiliate owner.
Right.
And it's bringing it back to MJ. Like, Michael Jordan owns the Charlotte Hornets and has owned them since they were Charlotte Bobcats. And I think it's safe to say, outside of his name being on the team, they've been relatively irrelevant
as a basketball team.
So really,
it's just an investment. And again, no idea. I don't get his quarterly newsletter of the status of his life and stuff. Yeah. And nor do I get Matt's. Though I will say his inclusion or that creation of that podcast is kind of that. Like, he is giving access to his life. Yeah. I think he as a product, because that's what he's sort of becoming.
Yeah. 100%.
He's got some work to do to figure out what's his narrative, what's his branding. Because if he's selling programming, I'm not buying it.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think Matt Fraser has many friends? Like, I'm sure he has a lot of acquaintances. I'm sure he has a lot of buddies that he chats with. But I have a feeling his inner circle is very small and very tight, because
I feel very uncomfortable commenting on that, simply because we have access to glimpses of him that are chosen and filtered by forces outside of our control.
Totally, but I mean, like as an elite athlete who said he had one goal for the last X amount of years.
Who knows? Yeah. Maybe he does. Maybe he's a really good guy about texting people back. Maybe he like.
Oh yeah, and I don't mean it from like I don't mean it from like he's a crappy friend. I mean like I get the vibe that there was only room in his life for X amount of people, and then so this whole like branching up. Shelly, shout out.
Make sure your glasses are on top of your head.
Your sunglasses are on your face.
Yeah,
your other glasses
are on top of your head.
What's up, 4 eyes?
6 eyes.
Skin.
What?
Foreskin.
Okay.
Anyway.
Derail.
Again, Patreon. So anyway, sorry. Moving on.
Yes.
Let's go ahead. Yeah.
That's a good one.
I think we beat that one over the head enough. 20.1 in the books, 20.2.
21.2.
21.2. 21.2. How you feeling? You just did it last night, Thursday.
It was good. I liked it.
Yeah.
So my prediction
Is it exactly what you were not expecting?
Yes. My prediction is that this will be a double, right? 2-2, 2 for 2, 2 for a lot of twos.
All the twos.
Yeah, 21. Well, 20. Yeah, 2-1-2. Shit, maybe it's even like a triple. I don't know. But I think it's going to be a double. I think this is the week we get a twofer, and then the next one, the last one, is a thruster and pull up thruster burpee, thruster something to close out.
Yeah, I think it's big thruster something. Yeah, I not that I am any genius or have any. I think the first one was exactly what I expected. As in, it was something that a lot of people will be able to do regardless of the skill, like do it RX, which is pretty on par for a lot of the opening workouts of the open.
7 minutes of burpees, double unders and light snatches,
snatches
rowing and wall balls, right? Like, look across the open. The first test is usually a test of capacity, generally either a light weightlifting and monostructural or light weightlifting and gymnastics. This was gymnastics and monostructural. The gymnastics movement was 100% doable by a broad swath of people. Look at the top of the leaderboard. Shocker. Who's at the top of the leaderboard? The fittest in the world, people. Tia Claire Toomey got fourth, fifth in the win. Like, oh my God, right? Like, Katrin was in the top 10. Like, oh geez, like, Noah was in the top 8, or something.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so you mean this test of fitness was extremely accessible to a really broad swath of people? Oh, and by the way, the fittest in the world seemed to rise to the top.
The cream rose.
Oh, interesting. It's at
the creamiest rose.
It's like Dave Castro and his team know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
So what
was your reaction when you saw wall walks?
I just was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, who would think? So simple. Like, of course, we all do them. We do them all the time. They're a great modification for handstand walks or whatever. And then it's like, you just turned it. Who would think to turn front squats and overhead presses into a competitive movement?
Right.
CrossFit would. Who would think to turn a wall walk into a competitive movement and create a standard that was easily judgeable and that I could hold a variety of body types and shapes and skill levels accountable to it? CrossFit would.
Yeah.
Observable, measurable, repeatable. They crushed it.
I think it's
cramp, hamstring cramp.
I think
that happens sometimes.
I think
a little dehydrated.
The wall walks are a lot like and they're not, and I'm being careful what I say because they're not easier than handstand walks, and handstand walks are not easier than wall walks, but it's like the lower down on the rope climbs and as opposed to a rope climb, like it's still working that thing, but it becomes very difficult because like it's isolating a little bit more.
So this is the scale to modification concept or conversation. So it fits right in with the Nerding Out video series, fits right in with the upcoming April RX month challenge, or RX challenge month, RX challenge month. Scale. A scale takes a movement, maintains the intended stimulus via modality and volume, or it retains the movement in the correct modality, but scales either the volume or the intensity of the movement itself.
Yeah.
So if you look at what the scale for the wall walk was, it went wall walk, shorter wall walk, bear crawl. That's scaling volume because I didn't have to walk as far. Then it scaled volume and difficulty to bear crawl.
You can say scaled load too.
I think so. Load and volume when you're talking
same.
Gymnastics is kind of the same thing.
Okay.
Difficulty is the difference between ring muscle up, ring row, ring dip. Right. Where the difficulty of the movement is the transition.
Right.
But I can still get the row, the pull, and
so
the
get that
push.
Strength building.
Right. But
out of
I can take out, and so volume would be I can scale. I can make it a jumping, I can make it a banded assist, right? So that's the load or the volume, and I can even reduce the number, but I can't really reduce the number in a competition because everyone kind of has to have the same scoring construct.
Right.
We talked about this. Why is that scaling? Because the person who does the scaled wall walk, the scaled distance, we said, they actually had to do the hardest part of the wall walk, but they didn't have to have as good of technique. They could bow their back, they could do whatever. And all it was testing was their strength and their capacity.
Yeah.
So as long as they had the strength and capacity, they could get away with shitty skill.
Yeah.
The person who's doing the full wall walk has to have strength, capacity, and a little bit of skill of keeping that externally rotated shoulder and a core to extremity motion.
Because that's really to where you start to fall. I think where you start to see people fall apart in the full wall walk was they lost that midline like stability.
And so then you take it all the way to the foundations with the bear crawl. Really, that was just a test of capacity.
Yeah.
But I could get away with absence of, if maybe I had an injury or absence of mobility, or I didn't have I'm not quite there yet. That's why those were a scale.
Yeah.
Modification is the adaptive athlete movement.
The push-up, shoulder tap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a completely different movement. Even the burpee, the lunge burpee. It's a completely different movement, but what made it a effective modification was it tried to stay true to the modality.
Yeah.
It tried to stay true to the volume, and it tried to stay true to the difficulty to facilitate the same stimulus.
Yeah.
And that's what I was testing all last week. Was I tried all three of them. I tried RX, foundations. I skipped the middle scale, the scale version, because I knew it was going to be right. Like I was like, yeah, that's too hard, too close to the RX. Yeah. Which, by the way, for those that did scaled, like those who did foundations, like those were hard as hell. But I would say the foundations one did not scratch the same stimulus itch for me as an RX athlete, and it shouldn't, right? Like, but I would say the foundations one did scratch that stimulus itch for those athletes that was an appropriate scale for. The modified one, finishing in 14:33, my arm, I was exhausted, and Sam and I got a little pukey. I felt very similar, I would say within a percentage or two of what I felt like at the end of the RX version. That's where the fact that the workout facilitated all of that creativity made it an effective test of CrossFit, right? That's the whole point. Improve work capacity across broad time and modal domains. That was an effective test. For week one of a 3-week competition, which will lead to a 4 to 6 workout weekend competition, Thursday to Monday, which will lead to multiple weekend competitions, which will lead to an entire week competition for the games. So all these people that are complaining about, well, this is ridiculous. In order to be more inclusive, they've totally just destroyed this test of we've taken the first step on a it's March? No.
April, May, June, July, August, 5 months?
A 5-month season. So that's like on opening day, when the Phillies lose their first game in opening day and the entire city of Philadelphia, oh, that's it. Phillies suck. Worst team ever. They'd be like, whoo, come on, folks.
161 more of those babies.
Take a breath. It'll be all right.
Yeah. Gosh. So let me ask you a question from that workout. Remove the stimulus of remove the element of the open.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just another training day in the gym.
Yeah.
What is the RX stimulus of that workout? What is what's the time frame?
Yeah.
We want to hit, we would say this RX in that.
12 to 15 minutes.
12 to 15 minutes.
I would say, and what we could scale would be, I would cut out the round of, good question. So I think I would make that 1, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15.
So you change rep scheme too.
I would. I think the 15 to 21 transition, because I look at where
It's a
people
big jump.
got, and it's 21, 15, 9, and it
Yeah.
should be a big jump, because what it did was you got isolated muscle fatigue in the round of 9 and 15 for people, because they were having to do so many wall walks in a row before being able to actually get back to the rest of the jump. And so if I'm scaling that for somebody in a class to drive them, because I don't want a time cap, making it a 15-minute time cap in a competition is helpful for judging and creating an environment where an affiliate can do it, right? That's the nature of a competition versus the nature of a training modality. And so, or a training methodology. So that if I'm coaching this, I'm still going to say, I want to put you guys in the 12 to 15. I'm going to allot 20 minutes for the workout, so that if somebody goes like 16 something, it's not the end of the world, or 18. But if somebody's knocking on the door of 18, I may ask, like, where are you? And they're like, I'm at 9. You're going to finish on this round. Right. Like you're done.
Yeah.
I'm capping them.
And back in my mind is like, should have seen this earlier.
You went to the bathroom when we did the rehearsal.
Should have checked in a few minutes earlier.
But that's right. And maybe we're doing a couple more like pacing rounds with 110.
Right.
And I'm timing it. And then we're going to do a 310 and I'm timing it. And then we're going to do a 550 and I'm timing it. And if they're not under a certain time cap, I'm going to say your journey is 1, 4, 8, 12, done. Right. Like, and your journey is 1, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, like that.
It's funny. I said to Danny, I said, I feel like the foundations version should have been lateral hops with your arms out to the side. So you have to jump with your arms up, because the double unders and even the singles, like your shoulders are still cooked. So you have to hold your arm, because you're missing the shoulder action.
No, you're not. Did you do it?
What?
Did you do the foundations? Dude, my shoulders, this shoulder hurts more after the jumping jacks than.
Oh, that's right. It was jumping jacks. What was I thinking? What was lateral hops?
Equipment free.
Equipment free. That's what I'm thinking.
So
free.
So that could have been. I mean, shoot, that could have been jumping jacks. But the lateral hops let people at equipment free feel the bounding of the jumping jack, and then they had to do the full wall walk. There was no scaled wall walk. But again, like, this is the difference between.
I have the whole plates, 2.5 pound plates.
That would be funny.
Right.
Fractionals. This is the difference of a couple weeks ago episode where we talked about the difference between competition and training. Right. This is what makes training so fun, is there is no standard. Right. The standard is, I want you to work for about 12 to 15 minutes. I want you to do a gymnastics and a monostructural, and I want to smoke the crap out of your shoulders. And I want to keep your heart rate in a manageable range, and let you see how you can actually do those wall walks out of breath. That's not what gets you going. What gets you going is when you sacrifice your midline, your shoulders aren't going to be there anymore. You really do need to stay tight here and in a good hollow, or else these bad boys fatigue way too fast. And so, like, I can mess with the rep scheme, I can mess with whatever to get you there. But yeah, that would be fun. You won't see this again though, folks. Like, because we do, again, wall walks serve a great purpose to be a mod for movement towards though we have done workouts with wall walks in them. I think we did like
just one relatively recently.
Well, there was handstand walks, and it was 5 wall walks was the mod.
I thought we had one that it was actually wall walks.
It might have been like 6, or it might have been before we went woo-wo. Maybe. But it was a run, it was wall walks, and it was cleans or something.
Now, do you think I'm curious, the standard from the open where you had to get your feet up on the wall before you moved your hands, and do you think that was a necessary, like, do you think that there's any reason, like, that was one of those ones that felt like you're still hitting this full range of motion? Is getting your feet up on the wall really?
Because think about what that position is. If I've got a crappy hollow, if I've got a loss of lumbar support, I can get away with 1 foot down, 1 foot up, and I can hip hinge that second foot up.
Just like burpee yourself.
And I can use a pour over. I can use a pour over extension and actually help and not pay the price of that overextension in my shoulders.
So you think that standard allows for better position, making it more difficult?
better position makes it fundamentally more sound, which mechanically more sound, consistently done well, will yield faster reps when fatigue sets in.
So it's almost like that standard for a competition still made it a point to keep good technique,
Yes,
and not sacrifice form
Yes.
for performance,
Yes.
because you never would have been able to.
and that's where other standards in handstand push-ups, in all the other things, if you actually look at what it's doing,
Yeah.
yes, there are always going to be those physiologically outlying people who just anatomically, but that's, I can't do it for everybody. Like there's always going to be these outliers, and it's on them if they want to figure it out as, a competition. But generally speaking, like the forearm to whatever measurement and blah, 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 what that facilitated was appropriate shoulder positioning and actively externally rotated
Pressing
shoulders
through
at
like
the
that.
end of the range of motion. Your heels are going to be above. But if I'm overarched and I've lost my lumbar support in the top of my press,
you'll miss it.
I'm going to miss the
Which I think is exactly what happened to Brooke Wells in that.
Yes, the Brooke Wells, Brenda Castro.
Yeah.
She was, her handstand to go faster. She overarches her lumbar and she lost range of motion on her heels.
Yeah.
Jacob Hettner, I think he just has a weird, that was his whole thing that year. But I don't know. I think he's got like short forearms or something. Or I don't know. Like he did a video where he measured himself and it's like, that does suck, dude. Sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but
wear thicker heels.
Blame your parents.
Yeah, right.
Don't blame Dave.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, so I don't know. That was a fun test. I thought that was cool.
Agreed.
And when I saw wall walks, I kind of laughed. It's like, that son of a bitch.
It's genius, right? It's just like, who would think of making that a movement?
Did he explain what his picture meant?
No,
coyote
he never does.
I thought he did. I thought he used to. But someone says like, well, it was upside down. So you had to go upside down. You invert it. It's like, sure. That sounds about right.
Yeah. And then you saw pictures of people, like they took that and they showed people flopped on their back.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
I love the standard where you had to start like the measurement where everyone was like face down on the ground,
and then
that became like a meme.
Ashley Scud's being deadlifted, like those. Yeah, that's she was being thrown like a torpedo or something like that. Yeah,
people had fun with that. That was cool.
Agreed.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for this workout that we're doing today.
Yes,
I had fun watching. I had fun in the comment section.
Those were great. That was really great. So, spoiler alert, or not spoiler alert. Hopefully you enjoyed watching. The Ryan boys will be at it again. Alex Ray will be joining us. Joined us.
Ray.
And Thor's Hammer. We may have I'm assuming we'll have a repeat of Andy being there.
Can we turn the heat up in this place though and get that shirt off?
I am extending the invitation, though you have not heard this yet, but for 21.3, any of our female athletes, teens, adults who would like to come, the invitation is open. The only caveat is you will not be entertained. Your hand will not be held. I have no warm-ups for you. You are on your own. Show up when we say our time. Andy is usually what time are we starting? And we have to set a drop dead start time because I'm usually the slow one. Like I'm usually, hold on, I gotta go pee.
He's trying to time his poop though.
What's up?
He's trying to time his poop.
100%. So we all have our reasons why.
Pre-game poop. I'm a pre-game pooper myself.
But so this is not, we just froze. This is not a class. It is, you know why? I wonder if it ended.
The meeting ended?
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh.
Hi.
Put it on Patreon.
Yeah, it's still going. You are on your own. Like that's the way. So
it's not a class.
That's why it's not an open invitation for everybody to show up. If you just happen to show up, like, oh hey, good to see you. Just understand, like, I'm not there to explain or answer.
So it's like might start at 7:30, might start at 7:45, might start at 8:30.
Yeah, like
I think last year's we got a late start
because if it's a 20-minute AMRAP and I want to watch, like and see, or it's like a 12-minute AMRAP.
It's not an announce the workout and go. It's
right. Like we got it, and then also it's serving two purposes. We're doing the workout to demo it, but we're then setting up the floor and setting up the gym so that I can come rolling in at 4:50 in, 9 hours from there and be ready to coach the class for.
So just know if you want to come be a part of it, you're welcome. Just know that it's a very we're moving, but you're also kind of moving on your own.
Yeah. So anyway, all of that to be said,
it is fun, regardless. Though, not to make it sound miserable.
Right.
When you come, it's a lot of fun.
You can read my article about the open communication from the 2019 or the 20 that I say, if I call you an asshole, it's because I love you and I'm really just nervous and trying to hide my nervousness.
Yeah, that's good.
That's why Andy and I are such good friends.
Because you can do that.
Because we tell each other to go fuck each other at least 3 or 4 times before the workout even starts. And then that's when we know we're ready to go.
You guys are funny together. You two together make me laugh so much. It's my no, I won't put it out there. Never mind. But it's just you two together make me laugh. It's fun.
Yeah.
So if anything, just show up just to see Andy and Coach Jack interact with each other.
It's seriously it's become I feel like I've never had a brother, but I feel like that's how I would interact with a brother.
Oh God, yeah. If you you'd say the same thing. You saw Steven and I hang out, you'd be like, "What is this?"
Yeah, that's seriously we're off-color comments to each other or under our breath. I wish he wasn't there sometimes, and then if he ever wasn't there, I'd be crying.
I think it was after one workout. It was an open workout. It was the first year we were here, and you and Andy came into the workout, and you were talking about something, and I remember going home to Mary. I was like, I've never heard Jack talk like that, and it threw me off. But it's totally because that's how you and Andy interact. It's I've never heard him say things like this. And not in a bad way, just that it's such a different dynamic, and so anyway. But it was it was cool.
So my gratitude, get you out of here so you don't get in trouble. Jen Copples, we finished the workout on Monday, and a couple folks redid it. Some were doing it for the first time, and we were kind of cleaning up. And Jen, in quite possibly one of the most authentic and just heartfelt ways, just said, kind of under her breath, but enough that I could hear it, just goes, "So when can we have a party again?" And it was just nailed it, exactly nailed it, of I'm so happy we're back doing this. This was really fun, but can we please just have Friday Night Lights again? Can we please just. And somebody, I think one of the other 930 athletes heard her, and it was what do you mean? And we explained how, in the past, the open was strenuous and stressful and whatever, but it was also, it was the party. It was when the 5 a.m.ers got to meet the 5:15 p.m.ers, and the morning crew finally understood who all those names were on Sugar Wad that they'd never met before.
Yeah.
And then somebody went, it's that's where all these pictures came from.
A lot of them,
If you look at around the gym, those were the Friday Night Lights, mostly.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those, I don't know if she intended it, but I was really grateful for her to remind me that, yes, it was a combination of a year ago, we were on Zoom, right? We were just starting.
It was this weekend, wasn't it?
No, it was. We were a week and a half in at this point, because we went Zoom on the 14th.
It was the 14th, yeah.
Monday, so I guess it was. It was this week. It was that Monday before my birthday. So the fact that we're back in the gym, the fact that we're actually able to do the open in person, all this stuff, it's amazing. Thank goodness, thank you, science and whatever, and immunity as it comes. But we also still have a ways to go. And as normal people, we forget quickly what we have at the expense of what we think we want.
Yep.
And so that's what she captured in that very truthful and very honest and very heartfelt statement of can't we just, and also in the way she said it of recognizing we can't, but at the same moment doesn't mean we can't still shoot for it, right? To keep it in mind of this is why we do this. We do this because not the fitness is the byproduct, right? It's a secondary, tertiary side effect.
Yeah.
The real reason we do this is because we get an excuse to hang out with the people who are closest in our lives and mean the most to us.
Yeah.
And that that's what I heard in what she said, and I needed it at that moment. And so thank you, Jen. That was absolutely awesome. And I also hear you. Yes, the second we can have a party, we are having a flipping party.
Yeah. Hopefully for the 4-year.
Yeah,
That's
there you go. That's actually a pretty good goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I feel like if we were keeping a tally of gratitudes, Jen Koppel's got to be the
She
top
gets
of
up there
that
pretty
list. She gets up there a lot.
high. Yeah.
Jen, you're awesome. I think kind of worth that too, like just everyone that's doing the open. And I even say for the people that aren't doing the open, like didn't actually sign up, but still showed up to do the workout.
Yeah.
So I'll say everyone that did that workout, whether they did it Friday, Monday, Sunday, they don't do it Saturday. So anyway, I love the open. It's my favorite time of year in the world of CrossFit. We do other stuff all the time, but yeah. So thank you all. We got 2 weeks left, so
we do.
Yeah, I'm not
Thank
letting anyone
goodness
else
we
get.
only have 2 weeks left this year. 3 weeks is nailed it.
It's
Like
funny,
that's the perfect amount.
Whenever I say to someone, it's like, I'm so glad it's only
3
3
weeks.
weeks. And they're like, I think it was Danny's like, well, yeah, you were always the one, like you back in Old Bay, and like you were always the one like organizing it.
Follow me.
Yeah. It's like by week 3, I'm burnt out.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it's 3 weeks, but I like this new structure. I like the top 10% too. I kind of like the glimmer of hope that it gives people.
So what it does is those who would have wanted the 5 weeks generally are the ones in that top 10%, right? Like if you think about like what they're shooting for and stuff. And so this new structure allows the majority to get just enough and like, okay, I'm good. That's enough.
Good.
That's all right.
See ya.
And then the ones who would want more, well, don't worry. You got another weekend coming. And so it's sort of that like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And again, I doubt they did that to please everybody. They did it because it facilitates a very robust and anti-fragile way to find the fittest in the world with the broadest net possible in an extremely tumultuous, physiologically driven pandemic world. It's very anti-pandemic. Because it can shift to virtual as soon as it needs to.
Yep.
It can be facilitated in a variety of places. It can be standardized with at least a pretty good assuredness that they can, hold people accountable to standards. So, like, wow.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. 21.2.
Here it comes.
Let's go do it right. Let's go do it right now.
Shelly's got the beep, beep, beep going. I keep getting excited. Or a little nervous.
Bum, bum, bum. Awesome.
All right, folks. See you on the creek.
Later.